thank you very much for inviting me to this beautiful city. This is my third visit to Czechia, but this is the first visit to this city. Basically I know Czech architecture through the works of Antonín Raymond. Probably you know Antonín Raymond. He is a great architect. As working in Japan, and still his works is very much respected by us. The story, one episode I want to tell is about Mr. Inoue. Mr. Inoue was a sponsor as a client of Antonín Raymond, and his masterpiece, Gunma Concert Hall. Probably some of you know that beautiful concert hall is very thin concrete and shell structure and as a folded structures. That's the Mr. Inoue was asked Raymond to design that building. I am working for the preservation of that building because the mayors once decided to demolish that building, but finally we can keep that building. But Mr. Inoue I know Mr. Inoue personally, because he lived as until age of 95, and I know many interesting story between him and Antonín Raymond. And grandson of Mr. Inoue is still my close friend. And this is about my relationship with Czech. But today, the theme of my lecture is what happened after March 11. You know, March 11 is a tsunami, big disaster in Japan happened 2011. It's already 3 years ago. And that changed our cultures and our economy very, very much. And I think it is a very good change for us because of that disasters, which we are facing the perfectly new situation. And my understanding is always big disasters change human. The first example is that disasters happened in Lisbon, Portugal, 1755. After that big disasters, it had tsunami as well, and 50 or 60,000 people died by that earthquake. And this is a big disaster at that time. So because of the population of that time is 1/10 of the population now, and then it gave a big shock to the people. And some historian pointed out the modernism movement actually happened because of that disaster. And modern science and modern technology, all that kind of modern somethings happened after that tsunami. And this is another big disaster that happened in America. And some historians also pointed out the architectural history in America started by this disaster. And after those big disasters, 3 years ago we had that tsunami. As you know, 30,000 people died by earthquake and tsunami. And I took this picture by myself. I visited this city. The Ishinomaki was Ishinomaki was most devastated city in Japan. And I took this picture by myself because I designed this building in Ishinomaki. And when I saw the news on TV, I was so shocked because this building was very close from waterfront, and probably there's no hope to stay that building. But and then I tried to call the building, but as you guess, we cannot talk to them. So because telephone connection, there's a stopped at that time. But 2 weeks after, suddenly the telephone, the connection recovered, and I could talk with them. And they said, we are survived, we are okay. And then I went to the site, to that place. This is my building, but it's difficult to find, but still the building there. Because I would like to hide the building in the landscape. I want to melt the building in the landscape. And 1/3 is on the ground, and 2/3 of the building is underground. And this is Kitakami River. This is Kitakami Canal. The building is like a tunnel between the city and the river. This is the plan. This is section of the building, Kitakami Rivers and the city. And this is the city of Ishinomaki. And because of tsunami, those buildings were damaged a lot. But my building was survived because there was a 1 meter gap from the city and the building. And we are very, very lucky. And this is the river side of the building. So the theme of the building is how to merge the building into landscape. And we have the big windows which separate exterior and interior. And this is Kitakami River. And in Tohoku area, the destroyed, devastated areas, we designed some buildings, but luckily, those buildings are all saved. This is Hiroshige Museum. So you know, Hiroshige is a famous ukiyo-e artist in 19th century. For that building, I tried to use local material as possible as can. So for me, it is a big chance to work with indigenous local material. That I use a local wood and local stone and local papers. But the most important thing is the layout of this building. This is typical structures of Japanese village. So this is the main street. This is center of the city, the center of the village. And the rule of the urban design of this village is centers and Satoyama, meaning of Satoyama is a village mountain, is next to each other. Because the life of the people is totally relied on the natural resource of mountain. Because wood material came from the mountain, and energy came from the mountain, and the fertilizer came from the mountain, and so without the mountain, people cannot live, cannot survive. And then they build shrine in the mountain. The shrine is a big message. Shrine is a message. What is the message? Don't destroy the mountain. If destroy the mountain, we cannot live ever. That is a strong message of the shrine. But in 20th century, people forgot Satoyama. So Satoyama was abandoned. The forest was abandoned. And even the shrine was abandoned. The people abandoned the shrine. It's a big problem for us. Why? Because they look at Tokyo. They only look at the big city. Because everything came from that big city. Material, energy, and everything came from the big city. And they forgot nature of the place. And the goal of my building is to have the connection between Satoyama and city again. And then we designed a big hall which penetrate the building. And because of the big hall, this big hall, the people can look at the mountain again, and after looking at the mountain, people can get in the building. This is a kind of arch to nature, and so this is the message of my building. But the mayors, this episode, the mayors asked me to have the big entrance facing parking, and I said no, the entrance should be behind the parking. The entrance should be facing mountain, and finally I can persuade him. And then the entrance is here, and the material. Also, I asked the mayor to introduce the good craftsmen of that city. And then I can work with craftsmen, and I can work with local material. For example, local stone, local rice paper, local wood, and then most of the material is from the place. And that is very important for the place. And also I think this is the real strongness of the place. In 20th century, people tried to use the material from Tokyo, the industrial material from Tokyo, but it's made the place weaker and weaker. And then the result of that kind of trend was tsunami. Tsunami that destroys the local place. But if we know the strongness of the place, so we can have a different direction. I want to show the different direction. This is another building. Material is the earth of the place. This place, I found this building. The material is earth of the place. And also this is the wall material is the earth. And this is a very short circuit of material and the result. But already people forgot that method. So what I did for there is to make the earth block and made that kind of building by the use of land. And it is very good for energy saving, and it's very good for material saving, because material is not the material. And also a good thing for this material is to control temperature and humidity by the material without air conditioning. And this is one of the national treasure in Japan. It's a Buddha statue, but we don't have air conditioning machine in that building. Material itself can control the environment. And another story is this building. This is an imperial hotel designed by Franco Wright. And Anthony Raymond actually, he made the drawing of that building. So when Franco Wright and Anthony Raymond came to Japan, they said, we want to use local material as possible. And they used this material. This is a very soft volcanic stone from Japan. They didn't want to use Italian marble. They didn't want to use it as such kind of as a gorgeous material. Local material is best, they said. And I designed the station plaza very close from the quarry of the local stone, volcanic stone. And this is our design. So this is the old factory. What we did is we use the same material and then to make the old building to the lighter building. This is a detail we did. So we combine local material plus steel plate to make it lighter and more transparent. The structure is a big challenge. It's a kind of composite structure. And the structure engineer, for him, it's a big challenge. And this is interior. And this is a new part of the building. As I always respect local material, local craftsmen, but at the same time, I want to combine the contemporary technology with local material. This is a good example. There's a bamboo house. The bamboo, I love bamboo, but bamboo has weakness. So it's easy to has cracks. And what we did is to combine bamboo and steel structures, and the steel columns is a bamboo, and we put concrete between steel column and bamboo. And for every project we made that kind of mock-up. And this is my first bamboo house in Japan. And please forget those neighbors. This is an ugly Japanese modern houses. But this my bamboo house. I tried to use bamboo as possible as can. Floor is made by bamboo. Partitions and ceiling all made by bamboo. And this is rice paper wall. And the next bamboo project is in China, because in China the bamboo is also a very important material. The site is very unique. It's very close from Great Wall. And I learned something from Great Wall. The lesson from Great Wall is respect landscape. The building wall is following the landscape. They don't cut the landscape. And also my bamboo house follows the landscape like that. And we didn't cut the land. If we cut the land, the vegetation, the plants, this will be gone. And this is part of Great Wall. And in the center of the building, I designed this kind of void. The void is very important. For Hiroshige Museum, we have the void which connects nature and city. And for this building, this void connects nature and the city. And as for the material, we worked with local craftsmen of China, and they did a beautiful work by bamboo. And this is the void we designed. And this is a void. This is a bridge to the void. And this kind of semi-outdoor space is to integrate exterior and interior, but also integrate natures and artifact. And the next material is wood. In Czech, you have a deep tradition of wooden building, but in Japan we also have the deep tradition of wood. I designed a small pavilion in Italy, and hint is this toy. This toy, kids don't use nail or screw or glue. So only the joint system can fix the structure. The three joint system, and just one action, the kids can fix the structure. And we brought those sticks to Italy, and we built. My student can build that structures without any carpenter's help. And my next step is to realize that system for the real size building. We tested in my university of Tokyo, and so my structural engineer said, we can build 10 meters building by that system. And this is a section. This is the result. This is interior. And actually, we have the glazing here, which separates exterior and interior. And this is very good. This grid system is very good for providing the box for exhibition. And then the exhibit is here. And the step by step, we find the secret of wooden structures. Next step is a wooden bridge. This is a structure of wooden bridge. This is a small village. The people are working with the forest. And I've talked with them, and their dream is to make the wooden bridge again, because they had a traditional wooden bridge, but it's gone, and they would like to reconstruct that kind of traditional structure. This is interior. And for the same village, I designed this hotel. This is a hotel, and facade is same as this, thatch block. The thatch block is very good for insulation of the building, and also the result is using that kind of material that the craftsman is disappearing. And I discussed with the craftsman, and they are very, very excited to do that kind of building. And the next project is with a contemporary client. The Starbucks is a client. Because of the site is very close to that old shrine, Tazai Futamangu Shrine, built 919, very old building in Kyushu. So this is the shrine. And this is Satoyama, again. It's mountain village, the village mountain, and the arch, and the approach is one set. I tried to use a very old material, but contemporary structural system. This is not interior design. This is the building. We built that building. This is system. The two bars are fixed by the steel rod, and one by one, so we can add that system, and finally we can make this building. And totally, so we use 4,000 meters of sticks for this small shop. And at the beginning, the Starbucks said, "Why is it you challenge such kind of complicated structures?" But finally, they are very happy to see that structure. And the next step is this small building. It's very recently completed in Tokyo, close from my office. And this shop is for the pineapple cake shop. And when the pineapple cake shop owner came to my office, I suddenly got a strong image about the building, because that structure system can be adapted to the pineapple. It's very similar to the shape of pineapple. And this is also structure, as not decoration. That structure is more difficult than Starbucks structure, because we should support 3 stories by that structure system. This is interior. This is the rooftop. This is the rooftop. And I want to explain, but it's difficult to explain. So we have 3 layers. 1 layer, 2 layers, 3 layers. And slide and push, so we can fix it. Again, we didn't use glue, we didn't use the metal for fixing. Just slide. And in Tokyo, we also designing the wooden building. But the main, for this building, the main structure, main structure is steel. But the idea is stacking wooden houses. Because the human space of the houses and the warmness of the space in wood is what we need in 21st century. In 20th century, people want to live in the concrete building, but in 21st century, we want to live in the wooden building. This is 40 meters building, but the section is like that. Those spaces between floor and roof was used for space for machine. This is the result. And even as in every floor, we can feel we are living on the ground with natural material. This is a rooftop. And this is a new Tokyo Sky Tree Tower. It's more than 600 meters, but the material is steel. I don't like that though. And this is much smaller than Tokyo Sky Tree because I like the wood, as I like textures and the warmness of the material. And next project is a city hall. It's a big city hall, but the main material is wood and earth. What we propose for this building is this kind of space. In the farmhouse, we call it doma. We call that space doma. Do means earth, ma means space. The meaning of doma is earth space. People like the earth. People like to live on the earth. And this is kitchen. People eat here, cook here, and meet here, drink here. So this is the most important space for farmers. But in 20th century, people forgot. This is the doma space, so we reconstruct for this city hall. And this is a city hall. It's a kind of office building, but the people of that city, Nagaoka City, really like that building. So almost every day, the kids are coming to that place to do homework, and every night, people are gathering in that space to drink and eat. This is City Hall, but it's very different from the normal 20th century City Hall. So I want to show the different type of public building. Because public building in 20th century is just a concrete box, but people want to have is the space like old farmer's house. Of course, we combine modern technology, contemporary technology, but the most important thing for that building is material and human scale. This is an assembly hall for the politicians, open to the doma space. And we use rice paper as well. This is a snow country of Japan, and people make rice papers in snow to get the whiter color. This is a special rice papers from this place, and this is ours. And these furnitures are designed by the use of rice paper, not fabric, rice paper sofa. And color came from the special fruits, kaki, from the place. And also the farmers are making that kind of the linen. So we use linen, that farmer's linen, for here, for the counter, for like that. Another doma space is for that museum. The centers we design doma space, and also we got a hint from the farmer's roof. And the additional and as an annex of that building is made by this unique wooden structure system. This is structure system, and this is system. The good thing for this system is to add and to cut is very easy, without any professional task. And strong as well. This is the interior. And so we also respect the traditional Japanese building. So the reconstruction of the theaters, the main comic theaters we did. And after those practice, recently we are working in Europe. So we have office in Paris. And this is my first French project. So again, we are very lucky because nature is just beside our building and history is in our site. So we want to combine history, nature with the wooden building. The structure is good and we have some void which connect nature and history and city. So we found the difference of Japanese carpenters and French carpenters, but we are very excited to work with French carpenter. The second French practice is Frac Marseille, the contemporary art museum in France, Marseille. The material is that. This is a recycled glass. The Czech is very famous for its glass factory, but in France I found a very interesting glass factory. So I want to avoid solidness as possible. I want to avoid heaviness of the building. And then and another thing is a semi-outdoor space which connects city and the building. This kind of semi-outdoor space. And first project in Spain is Granada, the Opera House. I got a hint from nature again. It's a fruits, Granada, pomegranate. The name of the city came from the fruits. The unique geometry and unique structure system, and also the Alhambra Palace of Granada, the unique geometry again. And so I adapted that unique geometry to my building. This is a structure of that opera house. It's a hectagonal structure is supporting that building. We want to avoid beam and column structure. And also, from interior, people can feel that structural system. And in Scotland, the hint is the cliff. The cliff. The cliff is solid, but cliff is not so heavy, I feel. The cliff has layers of the mineral, has a beautiful shade, and that can give some kind of the warmness to the place. And the location of the building is very unique, between waters and the land. What we propose for that place is a kind of a cliff made by precast concrete. This is again void, which connects nature and the building. And this is a section. This is a view from the city. And for interior, we repeat the cliff by the use of wood. And besides those bigger projects, so we are doing experimental small projects. So I like small projects because we can do some challenge in the small project. It is a stone pavilion in Italy. Thickness of the stone is just 1 centimeter. And the Italian craftsman the use stone like Japanese carpenter use wood. For them, it is a very, very easy material. And this is the first step of triangular structures, and the second step is aluminum triangular system in Japan. And this town has an old tradition of the metal as the steel factories. As we want to follow that tradition with the contemporary the metal technology. This is a joint, so we designed, and I want to adapt that system for the house. This is a house we designed by the use of same material, same joint system. And so we want to divide the house in a different way. We don't have flat space, flat floors. Every space has a different section. This section and this section, this section. And section has activities the corresponding. So, and again, our student made that house by themselves. So always for the small project, I involve my student. It is very good for them to learn something. So the next step is same joint system, but with wood. The geometry is very actually simple. Two types of geometry. This squares and this other square. But looks like organic because the wood can cut anyway. And the next material is ceramic tile. In Italy, I was asked to use the local ceramic tile to design monument. And this is a monument, but the use of ceramic tile is very different from normal way. In the normal way of 20th century, concrete structures and cladded by tile is a kind of decoration. But here, the tile itself supports the building. Tile itself, the structure. We made the model, so we, as the engineer's calculation, and the system is to combine the vertical stainless steel pipe with the horizontal ceramic tile. It's a kind of weaving, it's a kind of knitting structure. And we call it cloud because cloud, the shape is very ambiguous. It changes time by time. And then the next step is a ceramic tile, a Chinese ceramic tile for the screen of that museum. Chinese ceramic tile is very beautiful because I like the diversity of color and shape. And we hang that ceramic tile by stainless wires to create that organic shape. The detail, so we can control the privacy and natural light by those ceramic tiles. And another unique material, probably you don't know that material. This material is temperature memorable metal. So if temperature is high, that pavilion has this shape, and if temperature drops, the pavilion shape can change like that, because that metal can change the form according to the change of temperature. This is structures. This is the process we made that pavilion, because the diameter of the metal is very, very thin. It's a 2 millimeter, and then it's very fragile, and then we should use this kind of form to support that shape. It's very transparent like that. And that day is a cold day, and the shape of the dome, dropped like that. And next is a similar idea, steam flame, but by the use of typical umbrella. This is the material, a normal umbrella. And if 15 umbrellas gathered, we can build one dome. As you know, Buckminster Fuller's flat dome. But the flat dome, big difference from flat dome is flat dome, he didn't use the tension of the fabric. But for this dome, we use the tension of the fabric plus compression of the metal. And then we can minimize the size of the steel structures of the dome. Again, I worked with students. The 15 students working together, and they all are bringing their own special umbrella. And in one day they can build that house. And this is India. India is very transparent because we can minimize the structure. And after the completion, people like to live in that dome. They brought some as a cooking as equipment, and they drink and eat, and they sleep after that. So another experimental project is a polytank. We call it a water brick. This is a hint. The first idea is a kind of similar to Lego. So we can control the weight of the material. So for normal material, we cannot control the weight. But for that kind of polytank, we can control the weight of material. It is a big advantage. And but we didn't satisfy with the result. The second step is water branch. It's a linear one. In that linear one, so we can use this flow as a piping system. And water can flow in the wall. It is a big advantage again. And this is an experimental house by the use of that brick. Heat collectors is outside. And the heated waters can get into the building, get into the wall and floors and ceiling, circulating. And this is a very effective system of controlling temperature. We tested in my university building. My student worked for that pavilion, the connector. And finally, we can make that small house with bed. It is too small for equipment, bed, kitchen, and bathtub. All made by those one single material, one single unit. As any kind of shape can make by this shape, because it's very similar to Lego. But the difference from Lego is that this is the water flow in that house. And so in Germany, this is the only building I built in Germany, the small tea house, Frankfurt. And when I was asked to design tea house, the directors of Frankfurt Museum told me, don't use natural material. I was so confused. Why? He said, the vandalism was very, very terrible in Germany, he said. And if I use wood, so next morning, building will be disappeared, he said. And I should find another solution besides natural material. And my solution is building is built only when it's needed. And there is an inflatable building like that. And in 15 minutes, we can build that building. This is a double skin building. The tatami mats inside. And this is interior. The tatami mat and this is a fabric membrane. Fits very well. It's very similar. Effect of light is very similar to rice paper screen of Japanese traditional house. And the fire is here. Fire is here. And as the next small as a project is a tea house with a special fabric. This fabric is the most the lightest material in the world, lightest fabric in the world. The super organza is the name of the material. One Japanese company has invented that material. The weight of the fabric and the counter, the floating weight, floating powers of the balloon is balancing like that. And the next step is that breathing pavilion. So ETFE is a material. And ETFE is usually used for the big roof, but so we made a small block by ETFE, and this can breathe like that because there is a pipe and there's a blowers besides the blade. So my dream is building that has similar softness with human body. The softness is a theme of my building because traditional building, especially in Japan, traditional building has a softness, wood, and rice papers, and tatami. So every material is very soft and can fit the softness of human body. But in 20th century, the concrete, steel, glass, all the hard materials or very cold materials. So we lost that kind of softness. So we can find the alternative method to create soft building. So we can reconstruct another kind of the environment. That is my dream. So today I want to show some of the example of my soft building. Thank you very much.
I want to thank Mr. Kuma for his interesting lecture. I'm happy that I could see another connection between Japanese culture and Czech culture, because doma means in Czech language at home. Yeah. So it's just another thing that we have in common. And now we will change a little bit the schedule of the panel, since we are not sure whether Mr. Kuma could stay until the end of the whole session. So I would like to encourage you to ask the questions. If you had some, if you think about some questions to Mr. Kuma, please, you can ask now. There was a question, so please, one microphone.
Good afternoon, my name is Síla, and I've got a question about material. All of your speak was about the materials, and my question is if you already found a new material which has the body softness, because it was the last thing you said you wanted to create a new house from this kind of material. Have you already found it or not?
Not yet. But I tried to find some possibility. I try to find some of the new possibility. So recently, I'm very much interested in using the earth, the soil. So I showed some example, but that example is very similar to the masonry structures, so traditional structure system. But as a wood, so if we can combine wood and some we can combine earth and some fiber, so we can create lighter structures by earth. So we are doing some as experimental projects by the use of that combination of fibers and earth.
Thank you very much.
So the next questions, please.
Hello, my name is Boris. I got a question about how much time you dedicate to your practice, like we see in the big projects, and how much time you spend on the experimental projects. What's your time frame and what's your favorite thing? Thanks.
Yes, it's a good question. Usually I don't calculate how many hours for the experimental, how many hours for the big project, but the important thing for me is double track. So if we are doing the big project, sometimes it's very frustrating. Big projects, there is a very hard regulation, the condition of the budget, as a client, many complicated things happen for the bigger project. But small project, so we can find the free area. So in that free area, we can do anything. Of course, for the small projects, we have some limit, but it's a limit of the material itself. And it's a kind of scientific level for me. And then that kind of scientific level and big project always go together. And that is very good for my mental health. Okay.
Maybe just a small one. And the people working in your office, they're separated in parts, and people that work just on the commercial projects, and people that work in the lab, or they mix.
Basically, they mix, so we try to mix, and if somebody is working for the bigger projects for 3 years, I make him back to the small project and go back and forth small project and big project. It's good for also very good for their mentality and motivation. Understand?
Next questions, please.
My question is the size of the elements that you are using so somehow related to the human body?
Yes, I think the size is very important for architecture, because if the unit is too big, so we can control the space. So in Japanese traditional building, the size of the wood is very small. The diameters of the sections of the wood is about 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters. And the length of wood as timbers is around 2 meters to 3 meters. And that dimension is very human scale and very light as well. And the people can feel the sympathy to the building. But in 20th century, the concrete is one solid volume. So so people cannot make the conversation with that kind of huge volume. And what I try to achieve for my project is to minimize the size of the element, to minimize the weight of the element, and also to achieve the softness as possible as can. The goal is to give the sympathy to the users, and that is very important for myself.
Hello, my name is Roman, and I would like to ask you how important for you is teaching on the university?
Yeah, teaching in the university is a good chance for me to do some experimental projects with students. So I believe the best way to teach them is to work with them. And then I show some examples of smaller projects with students. And student nowadays, the architectural student is thinking in the computer. So only the brain and computer. But if they work with real material, with their own hand, the imagination can be expanded, I think. And then I push them to do by himself. But in that case, the study by the computer is already very necessary. You know the grasshopper. Grasshopper is a software, and we did many studies about the size and pitch, and the density and shape by the use of grasshopper. And after those studies, we made the model. And after making the model, we made a real pavilion. And then the computers, analysis, and the model analysis and realization. So 3 steps should be integrated, I think. And the students are very happy to work in those 3 steps. Okay?
So last 2 questions, please.
Hello, my name is Jakub, and I've got a question about the student. When are you teaching? Can the student give you some experience or ideas? Okay, thanks.
Yes. The student often gave me the hint, and then I'm very open to the ideas of the student. And I showed you the Chidori project. The Chidori project is a grid system. I didn't know that the toy called Chidori. That toy was a very local as a toy in the mountainside of Japan, and I didn't know at all. But one of my students showed me that toy, and I was so surprised. This toy is amazing. This toy system can be adapted for the pavilion. And then, so we could do that pavilion. And the student always gave me many hints about my design. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
So maybe one more question, and the last one will be Mr. Grzegorz, right?
I would like to ask you if your university cooperate with private companies, because there are quite nice structures which can be used for a lot of building, and it's nice to say.
We often work with as a private. We often involve private company, because in Japan, as a private company, not big company. Big company is a general contractors is just a big company. But private small company about the pump works, the wooden works, has a high quality and a long history and high quality. I try to involve them to our project. This is very helpful for our project. And also those private companies are very happy to work with us, because also they can get some hint from the design. And I think it's a conversation between those good, as a motivated company, and our ideas. Collaboration is very necessary for the future of architecture or design.
Do they use your structures, your concepts of the structure, or they just do they můžu ještě tak prosím.
Sometimes they use our idea for their next products. Sometimes, not so often, but sometimes.
Okay.
Petr Kratochvíl, from here, from the University of Liberec. You have mentioned Frank Lloyd Wright, and we know how important was his experience with Japanese culture for the development of his own architecture, and in fact of the development of modern house, Western house. Now you are the ambassador of Japanese culture in the world, working in France and everywhere. Can you tell, was it difficult for you to connect your Japanese attitude to architecture with the reality of building in such countries as France or United States? I saw your building in Europe.
Yes, as you mentioned, Frank Lloyd Wright was a big ambassador to Japan, and he was influenced by Japanese the roof building, but sometimes we Japanese were so much influenced by him. And him and Anthony Lemon also, we got a big influence from two guys. And for me, to do the project outside of Japan is another big chance of exchange. I want to explain. You know Tadawando. I respect him very much, but he always follow his method, his style, and his construction method. In Japan, it's always his building is the same. But my building, when I use bamboo in China, I work with Chinese craftsmen, and their method is different from Japanese craftsmen. I enjoy the difference. And in France, I showed the wooden construction, the method is a little bit different from Japan. And I don't want to push my method to France. Always I respect the local method. And also So my staff working for French project is mostly French. So it's a mixed team. It's Japanese, French, and some German. It's a mixed team. And then the mixed team is very important. The mixed team is we can activate the cultural exchange. And then that is my method.
Thank you.